So again, if you're listening for the first time, please like, subscribe, share on the podcast. If this is a radio show that you're listening to us on, we thank you so much. Tell your friends and your family about that also. And if you could, with the podcast, just definitely push it out because we're trying to get as many listeners rather as possible. I'm getting tongue-tied, but we are doing well on that. We have Marissa Cobuzio. She is a veterinarian student at Cornell University, used to go to Rollins, is done everything in the kitchen sink, and has raised over five canine companions dogs. I'm used to saying the old way, but
I know. I got to change it up. It's so hard to
we'll,
change the old
we'll
way.
change it up. Once you get kind of, I was going to say brainwashed into saying one thing and then you're
Yeah.
changing the other way. But anyway, she's raised five canine companions dogs, and we're very grateful to her. And we've had a lot of people from canine companions puppy raises, people that have had canine companions dogs on this podcast, on this radio show. And you're just another one of the people that we have on, and we're grateful to have you on. So, Marissa Cobuzio, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
All right, so let's kick this around, Marissa. First of all, I told the viewers a little bit about you as a vet student at Cornell. You studied sociology at Rollins and also biology. It seems like you're into everything in the kitchen sink. Start off with our viewers how all this came about that you went from these two majors and being successful in that, and now you're a student and almost, on your way to graduation very soon.
Yeah, I'm very close to graduation. I'm like 4 months away. I actually just found out earlier this week that I passed my boards exam, which is very exciting. So I'll be able to be licensed once I graduate. Very exciting. Um, I found Rollins kind of like off the cuff. I have a twin brother who was looking at schools in Florida to play soccer. And he ended up going to University of Tampa and loved it there and played soccer there. But I found Rollins through that. And so when I got there, I always knew I wanted to be a vet. And that was pretty much a non-negotiable. It's been that way since I was like in kindergarten. So biology was like pretty much what I was going to major in from the start. And then I took like a sociology class or two there. And I was like, I like literally love this stuff. I'm so excited about it. And so I kind of talked to my advisors and they were like, why don't you double major? So at first I was going to do a minor in sociology and then took enough classes that I was like, why not do a major in it? And honestly, I think it helps out not only for applying to vet school, but also just like being a good vet and understanding the social context in which you're operating. You're working with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds as a veterinarian. And I think it's really important to be like kind of aware of your surroundings and where other people come from and how they view the world as well. So that kind of just like came together really nicely. And I'm really thankful that Rollins allowed me to do both biology and sociology. So
Obviously, as we just teased, you are at Cornell, about to graduate in a couple of months.
mhm.
You made that move back home to be closer to your family. I know you're from New Jersey originally, or is it just because
Yeah,
Cornell is a great school? How did
no,
that come about?
yeah. So Cornell, for some reason, has always been my dream school. I had like a teacher in middle school who kind of told me about Cornell Vet School, and for some reason, I always just like had put it on this pedestal, and so it's been the dream school for quite a long time. Not even because it's close to my house. And there's no vet school in New Jersey, so I kind of was applying out of state everywhere. I actually was looking at schools abroad. So one of the schools I was considering was in Dublin, and I was pretty highly considering that. It's a gorgeous school. I got accepted there. I went, flew out and visited, and ultimately it came down to when Cornell accepted me, it was like it is the dream school. The way they operate their curriculum is all problem-based learning. And so you're like in classes with other students working on problems and there's less lecture. And I knew that that was how I learned best. And so I was like, once they said yes, which I was called off the wait list. So to back it up a step, I had actually committed to Tufts University
Okay, in
up here in
Boston. Okay.
Boston. And then I got called off the wait list for Cornell. And at the end of the day, I was just like, there's nowhere else I think I would want to study if given the opportunity to go to Cornell. So I'm there now. And I can't say that it was the right decision because I didn't go anywhere else, but it definitely wasn't the wrong decision because I loved my 4 years, and all of the clinicians I've worked with, the professors I've worked with, and the people, my peers are fabulous. So I'm very, very thankful for it.
So, for people that don't know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I like to research before my
Yeah.
interviews with people. So don't get a little weirded out. We like to dig deep if we can find some information on people. So Marissa, it seems like you were quite the athlete growing up. I know you spoke about your brother playing soccer at Tampa. With that said, it looks like you played, well, it's not playing, but you did rowing at Rollins and also were into gymnastics. Is this why you're an overachiever in life, pretty much, where you're studying this, that, and everything else in the kitchen sink, plus volunteering with canine companions and raising and fostering cats? And I'm just gonna stop rambling because this is incredible stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I did. I started competitive gymnastics when I was 10, which is pretty late for a competitive gymnast. Typically,
Hmm.
um, people who do that start when they're like 2 or 3. So I found it
Oh.
really late and I fell in love with it. And I'm happy I found it late because I think a lot of the girls I competed with, um, kind of found it really early and then their like passion for it maybe died out a little bit because it's just like something they've been doing forever and they wanted to try different things. But I got to try a lot of sports before I landed on gymnastics. And
Hmm.
so like I was genuinely excited to go to practice every day. I was always the oldest one there. Because I started so late, but absolutely loved it. I competed from, I guess, 10, whatever you are when you're 10, I guess fourth grade or so through high school. I ended up not doing it in college for a number of reasons, but mainly because I wasn't committed to like competing at a level that I needed to be like a college gymnast. And
Mhm.
so I decided that high school was the end, and I made it to nationals my senior year of high school. So
Wow, it's
that was
impressive.
the goal for me. I competed level line nationals, and I was very, very thankful for that. I had a couple injuries along the way that have obviously healed up since then, but that kind of held me back a little bit. But then I got to college, and I was kind of like so used to having a schedule of like 5 days a week of practice for 4 hours and 20 hours a week of doing things. I was like, I don't really know what to do with myself now. And so rowing is one of the teams at Rollins you can just join. You don't have to like be recruited or anything like that. And a lot
Mhm.
of students do join with no prior experience. And so I rowed for my first semester. And then I was having some back issues that I was like, I don't really want to row anymore. And they were like, please stay because I'm really short and I'm quite loud, and be our coxswain. So I stayed on as a coxswain for our second semester, and we got to row at like the southeastern regionals, and we got to row at
Oh.
Dadville, which is like kind of the nationals, and our boat came in third, which is really exciting. So it was a really wonderful experience. I only rowed for my first year of college, and then I kind of decided that I wanted to like invest in my time in other things. And so I did more volunteering and stuff the second through fourth years of college and didn't do any sports. But yeah.
Marissa Cobuzio here on Fire Breathing Rob. Definitely check her out. We're going to get all into all your social media and everything else where people can find more about you in just a moment. As we kick this around, you talked a little bit early on about animals and how you loved the animals growing up, and that was kind of your dream to be a vet,
Mhm.
even as you were a little girl. When did you develop that passion? Was it straight when you were growing up? Did you have a lot of pets growing up? How did this all come about?
Yeah, I have been an animal lover since very young. And my family doesn't really, my mom maybe, but my brothers and my dad didn't really share that with me. So I was a bit of a
Mm,
pester. I was constantly begging them to get, I mean, we got our first cat when I grew up with a cat I guess when I was first born. They had already had a cat, and then that cat passed away. They weren't going to get another one. I bugged the heck out of them. We got another kitten. And then when I was in second grade, I bugged them again. We got a
mm,
dog. And then about I think like third grade, I started asking to volunteer at the shelter. And at that time, the shelter
wow.
was pretty passionate that you had to be 16 to volunteer. And so I was, again, a little bit annoying. And I was like, can I please come with my mom? Can I please come with my mom? And so around, again, 10, when I started gymnastics, I started volunteering at the shelter with my mom. And we went every week. And then slowly from there, going every week, we started fostering like litters of kittens. we were doing fundraisers for the shelter to buy them like new washer, new dryer, that type stuff. And so it kind of just snowballed from there. And then I found other organizations to volunteer for and stuff. So I really pretty much convinced my family that animals were going to be a part of our lives for a very long time. And now I have two dogs and a cat. And I obviously raise service dogs. So I bring home many animals every time I come home. So they're very used to having animals around the house now. But yeah, it started pretty young. And it's grown since then. So
And how did you find out about canine companions? And you're doing all kinds of great work still, but let's
yeah.
start from that beginning of how you found out about them.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of honestly, it makes me happy every time I think about it. So I was a member of the Bonner Leaders program at Rollins, which is a cohort style program where you spend time at different community partners, donating your time. Then you also learn about some social justice initiatives and stuff like that. And it's a 4-year program that I was selected to be into my first year. And so through that program, I was partnered with Florida, or I guess it's Advent Health now, at the time as
Yeah.
Florida Hospital for Children. Um, and I did one of my rotations there. And while I was there, I worked with the pet therapy program, which I absolutely loved. And at the same time, they were working on getting another facility dog for one of their child life specialists. And so they invited me to the Tails and Tails gala that they
Hmm.
have at I forgot the name of
Rosen, isn't it?
yeah, Rosen Shingle
Yeah.
Creek. And so I was like, I have no idea what this is, but like I'll just show up there and see what happens. So I showed up with one of my friends. We mingled with people, and I happened to meet someone who went to Rollins and raises service dogs. And he and his wife are very active in the Canine Companions community as well as the Rollins community. And he started talking about how UCF had a huge dog raising program and how they would love to start that at Rollins. And so I worked with him. Bill Gordon is his name. I don't know if you know him. And Bill and Patty Gordon, and they helped me kind of lay the framework at Rollins for what it would look like to have a dog. And then I ended up studying abroad in New Zealand. So I left for a semester.
Mhm.
And then while I was over there, I was like, now's the time. Like, if I'm going to get a dog to raise and I'm going to start this program at Rollins, now's the time. So I actually had my interview at 3 a.m. over there because it's like the complete opposite time. So like woke up in the middle of
Oh,
the night
yeah.
to have like my puppy raiser interview. Worth it. And so then when I got back is when they shipped me my first dog. And so that's Ari right there. I know she's Ari. Can you put your head up? She's sleeping, but
How
so
old
that's
is
the
she,
first dog
by
I
the
raised.
way?
She is 5 now.
Okay.
5, 4 or 5. I think she's 5. Yeah.
So did you get her in what around
I got
seems
her
like
in
2018,
2018.
17?
Yep. I got her in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So she was the first dog I raised. She helped me start the Rollins Collar Scholars. Um, and that was really awesome. And then I kind of like my experience with canine companions has just grown from there. So I raised 1 at Rollins, and then I've raised 4 at Cornell. 3 of those at Cornell were co-raised puppies with other raisers in the Northeast region. And
Right.
then I was really lucky. I got, with the help of a Rollins student, as well as a bunch of people from the Southeast region campus, and then Rollins themselves. So actually the president's wife was one of them that really helped me out. We raised $15,000 to name a puppy. And so there is a puppy named Rollins that is being raised in Orlando. And he matriculates in like less than a month to start his
Wow.
journey to become a service dog and professional training. So fingers crossed for him. I'm really excited. And I'm very thankful that we were able to raise the money to name a dog after my alma mater. So
Going into a puppy raiser, and you obviously raised Ari, but a bunch of other dogs, 4 other ones besides her. With that said, talk about being a puppy raiser, the time and energy that goes into this, because it's really an extremely hard job, but it's also valuable because you're helping this dog become successful and hopefully move on to helping a person become extremely successful in life.
yeah, I mean, I have loved puppy raising. I think it takes a lot of time, but it's time that I'm like wanting and willing to spend. I think the coolest thing about puppy raising for me personally has been how different each dog is and how different their needs are. So for Ari, like she was the easiest going dog from the day I got her until, I mean, like right now. She really has never had, she needs a little bit of help to get motivated to do things, but she's a very easygoing dog. And then I had another dog that I raised. I was super energetic. He was a full golden and
Oh,
very over the top. So it was a very different, like what I needed to give him was very different than what I need to give Ari. And then the most recent dog that I had that unfortunately was released while he was rotating through team training to be matched. He was an incredibly motivated dog, but had fear of some certain noises. And so that was
mm,
like, we spent so much of our time like just walking around Target and being rewarded for hearing noises and not having reactions to them. And so it was quite different. So every day looks different and every dog looks different in terms of like what is required of you. Um, but I think that's the fun of it is like I've also learned a lot about dog behavior through this process. So when I think about the kind of raiser I was when I had Ari and the kind of raiser I was with my last dog, Colton, like I feel like I've grown so much and I get to give all of that to my dogs, which is really cool. And I'm like, I kind of wonder what Ari would be like if I knew all the things I know now that I did when I raised her. And I think she would be mostly the same. Like she is who she is, and you really can't change that. But
right.
I think that there are certain things that I'm have learned about dog behavior now and how to respond to certain situations that I think is really cool. And every dog I get after gets the benefit of having the previous dog and all the things I've learned from them. So um, I love it. I wish I could do it forever. I was actually trying very difficult, not going to happen, unfortunately, but trying to get another puppy to raise in my final months of my clinical year. But I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. But after I graduate and go, I'm in the military. So when I find out where I'm stationed and like what that kind of day to day looks like, hopefully puppy number 6 will be on the way. So
Yeah, so speak about that because you applied for a scholarship.
mhm.
Is that what this is now, going into the military on that scholarship, or what's going on with that? Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is like my time with the military has been completely founded from my time with canine companions, truly.
Mhm.
I was really interested in zoo medicine and conservation medicine before I went to vet school. And I did some like externships with in New Zealand with penguins, and I worked at an aquarium and stuff like that. And then I when I was raising Ari, I was realizing how much I loved like genetics and breeding and behavior. And that's like kind of the combination of those three things is like what makes the canine companion's dog who they are. And so I was applying to a vet school, and the admissions counselor there, I'd kind of explained to him like, hey, I'm really interested in working dog medicine and like the aspects of breeding and genetics and behavior and how those things all work together to make like these really incredible dogs that go on to do really incredible things. And he had suggested the military. He's like, have you heard of this program? You apply, they pay for school for you, and they help you like pay for housing and food and stuff throughout school. And then when you graduate, you owe them 4 years. But majority of your job is with military working dogs. And like the
Mm.
Army probably has the largest population of working dogs that I know of in the country. More than canine companions, I think. So I was like, that sounds like incredible. So I applied in my first year throughout like my first semester. I got accepted in December of my first year. And so I've done some trainings for the military. I just had in September, I went on an active duty training with them to the military working dog hospital in Texas. And
Oh,
that's where they have all of their dog training. So there's like 1,000 dogs there. And they, from all of the puppies that are trained to be TSA dogs or military, like any of the branches of the military are trained there. So, and I got to do all sorts of different medicine for them, which is like so cool, incredible. And it really like reignited that, like, that's what I want to do with my future. So,
but are you going to be stationed in this country or overseas, or you just don't know?
so for my first year, it's technically like a rotating, how I explain it as a rotating internship with the military. And that's at one of 7 bases that it's in the States. So I'm hopefully we'll find out very soon where I'm going. And that will be for 1 year. And then after that, I will be at a base for 3 years as like an active duty member of the military.
Wow.
And that will be, it could be stateside or overseas. If I had my choice, I want to be overseas. That's something I'm really interested in. It's different than being deployed. So you're just stationed there.
Right.
Deployment is a potential, but not really super likely as a new grad, and especially yeah, it's unlikely for my first assignment that I would
But
be
you don't
deployed.
have to go through basic training. This is just for dog stuff, right? Or no?
So I went through this thing called DCC, which is called the Direct Commissioning Course, and it's not basic training. It's your introduction to the military, and then you go through BOLIC, which is called Basic Officer Leader Training, and it's like your introduction of how to be an officer in the military, but it's not by any means basic training.
Can you talk about the special tasks that these dogs do that basically teach them?
Yeah, so our job as puppy raisers really is to socialize them to the world. Or that's how I look at my job, right? So like when they get to professional training, they're taught specific things like retrieving and turning on lights and tasks that they will ultimately use to help their disabled partner. My job is to make sure that they are stable in all environments. And so like as young as 8 weeks old, we're exposing them to different parts of the world that might become scary. And we're teaching them like, hey, this is actually a really good thing. So like 8 week old puppies are learning about noises in the house. So like what does a vacuum sound like? What does a dishwasher sound like? Things like that. And meeting all these different kinds of people, tall people, short people, like men, women, people with hats, people with umbrellas, all these things that you wouldn't realize are like could be really scary to a dog, but they could be. So we just kind of are exposing them to the world, and then you kind of as you see where your dog can handle, you build that up. And so like one of my favorite outings to take the dogs on when I think they're ready, and that's typically not until like they're over a year old, is on a plane, because that's like
Yeah.
you're going through the airport, through security, there's a lot of people, then you're getting on a plane, you're in a small space with a lot of noise, and how can you handle that? And you obviously are building them up for that over time, so you're not just jumping straight to that, but it really, there's some outings that are like a true test of how well they can handle the world and how neutral they can respond to it. And what we really want is the dogs to be neutral. We want them to notice the world, and you don't want them to be like completely unaware of what's happening, but you don't want them to have a negative or positive reaction. You want them to be pretty neutral and able to like look back to their handler whenever they're asked to do that. So it's pretty cool getting to do that and working with them on that. And then we also teach them some commands, like positional commands, sending them to their bed, to their crate, teaching them how to wait for food, how to dress with their cape and stuff like that. But for me personally, I feel like that for a dog that likes to work, they can be taught that pretty fast.
Mhm.
But a dog that is confident in all areas, in all environments, with all people, is and loves to work, is like by far more important. So I'm teaching the dogs to like love the world, and it's a safe and happy place, and also love to train, because if they're happy to train, they can be taught anything. So that's my goal.
So I know we're, winding down toward the end of the interview, and a lot of people that are listening to this, I'm sure they learned a lot of things throughout
Mhm.
this interview. What do you hope the people that are listening to this or watching this interview learn about canine companions, about dogs in general, whatever it may be?
That's a good question. I guess the one thing I will say is I think a lot of people have this perception of like, oh, I could never do that. For whatever reason that might be, like it would be too hard to give the dog back, or I don't really know a lot about dog raising or training or behavior. Um, and the thing is, like when I started, I didn't either. I really knew nothing. I literally knew nothing. I watched the videos of me training Ari, and I'm like, there are so many things that I have learned, and Canine Companions has guided me like from literally knowing nothing to what I know now. And obviously I have so much room to grow, right? There's no stopping. And so I feel like if you're afraid of doing it for whatever reason, I think reaching out is the first step. And you have like the Canine Companions family. I mean, there are raisers all over the country
Right.
at the ready to help you with anything you need. There are 6 regional centers, so like you can raise anywhere in the country. And it really is puppy raising. It's you have the opportunity from an 8 week old puppy to a year and a half old puppy to learn a lot about yourself and the puppy, but it's also like a really incredible way to educate the public on disability etiquette and how they should interact with service dogs or not interact with service dogs, what the laws are, like ADA laws, and how what is and is not allowed in public. I'm sure you know, but there's a lot of
Fake
fake service
dogs.
dogs, and there's also a lot of people who bring their emotional support animals, which
Mm.
are legitimate and reasonable animals to have, but they don't have public access rights. And so I think people get confused, or they don't know, or they haven't been properly educated. And it's our job to do that. And so I'm like, Canine Companions will provide you with the resources, and you can do it. And we always need puppy raisers. So if anyone is interested, it's a great place to start, canine.org, and they will have all that you need to help get started and help you learn the right way to do it. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is
So let's
never,
get
never
to
is
the,
the wrong
oh,
time.
sorry, Marissa.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. You're good.
I say, let's get to the last three questions. So, what is your ultimate goal in life? Obviously, you're doing this internship for 4 years. You're locked, loaded, and sealed in there. But
Yeah.
besides that, after that ends, do you think that obviously you haven't started, so you can't really answer that, but do you think that's kind of where your life is going? Something like in the military? Do you think you'd go back into maybe working with canine companions, maybe starting your own vet business? What are you thinking right now?
Yeah, at the current moment, the goal is whether it be through the military or out of the military at a civilian institution, I really want to do a behavior residency. So that's a 3-year program that I would do outside of like beyond vet school. And I would become a boarded specialist in behavior. Where I want to practice with that is still up in the air. I think that more than anything, when you become bored in a behavior, you're learning not just about, working dogs, you're learning about cat behavior and pet dog behavior. And you can specialize in other exotic species if you want as well, or large
Sure.
animal. There's all these opportunities. In theory, I really would like to keep my work like niche and with working dogs. And so where that takes me, I don't know yet. The military does have a behavior residency program in the military. So a lot of your clinical work is with military working dogs. And so that's my hope right now.
Mhm.
If the program is still available and I'm able to get accepted, obviously that's like the end goal. But I really do think a behavior residency and then practicing behavior medicine down the road would be where I want to go next. If Canine Companions needs a behaviorist, though, I'm happy to be their behaviorist. I did an externship at Canine Companions, their headquarters, last year, and
Oh,
I
wow.
loved every second of my 2 weeks there. I cried when I left, like I did not want to leave. It is a magical place with many puppies, and I would love to be involved in some way with Canine
It,
Companions as well. So
so as we come to a close, Marissa, can you tell people where they can follow you on social media? I know you do have a big Instagram presence, so maybe they can follow you there also. Just give all the viewers and listeners all that information as we end this interview.
yeah, I have an Instagram. It's at Raising with Riss, raising with and then RISS, so two S's. And that's where I post a lot of my vet school stuff on there, all the dogs I've raised, my personal pet dog. I did actually just foster and then foster fail adopt a new kitten. So she'll be on there too. So all of the animals, both at vet school and at my own personal little zoo at home, are on there if you want to check it out. So
And last question, this is my question to you, is will you be able to do the Dog Fest this year? Whether it's in New York, Orlando, wherever.
I am unsure. I don't know where I'll be when Dogfest happens. So when I get stationed, I graduate in May. I will go to 5 weeks of training in Texas pretty shortly thereafter. And then I could be in Texas, Washington State, Washington, D.C., Kentucky, Georgia, North Carolina. And there's one more. Colorado. So it's pretty all over the board as to where I'll be. But the hope is that wherever I do get stationed, I will be able to participate in that region's dog fest. So in theory, yes, I should be at one of the dog fests. I just don't know which one yet.
Well,
But
the one in Orlando is in April. I know that's a little far from
okay.
you, but
Yeah. That's like at the April is like when I have my two of my hardest rotations. I'll be
oh
on
wow.
soft tissue surgery and then emergency medicine. So getting away might be difficult, but Maybe I can FaceTime. And last year, I know that there was a Rollins booth there, and I'm pretty sure, hopefully, or Rollins the puppy was there, I think, last year. So
Oh,
um,
wow.
I wish I could be there this year. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll make it, but yeah.
All right. Well, Marissa Cobuzio, again, thanks you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. And again, can you just shout out where people can follow you on Instagram again before we come to a close?
Yep, it's at Raising with Riss. So thank
All
you so
right.
much for having me. It was a blast.
All right, Marissa, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Bye.